Principles of perceptual organization. We have learned what is perception, and the perceptual organization is, according to the psychologist William James, he described that human beings generally they do not see the object or things as they appear, but view them as they want to. The perceptual organization is a synthetic process where the human mind selects specific stimuli through its attention and interpret it as per the directive. It is an essential concept. The perceptual organization is an essential concept. Why? Because it allows individuals to make sense of the things that they see at a rapid pace. Before going to the details, please remember to subscribe the channel. Thank you. First one is the principle of closure. When we receive sensations that form an incomplete or unfinished visual image or sound, we tend to overlook the incompleteness and perceive the image or sound as complete or finished unit. This tendency to fill in the gap is referred to as closure. In the image, you can see the shape of a diamond because your brain fill in the missing gaps in order to create a meaningful image. Here you can see four different shapes, but our brain will see this as in the shape of a diamond. Why? Because our brain fill the missing gaps, and this tendency to fill the gap is known as the closure. Second is the law of pregnance. It is also known as the law of good figure or the law of simplicity. This law holds that when you are presented with a set of ambiguous or complex objects, your brain will make them appear as very simple or as simple as possible. For example, when you are presented with an Olympic logo, you see overlapping circles rather than the assortment of curved connected lines. So, the brain have a tendency to make them appear as simple as possible. So, here you will see or you tend to perceive this as overlapping circle rather than several curved connected lines. So, that is the law of good figure or the law of pregnance. Third is proximity. According to the law of proximity, things that are close together seems more related than the things that are spaced farther apart. When objects are close to each other, the tendency is to perceive them together rather than separately. Even if the individual items do not have any connection with each other, they will be grouped under a single pattern or perceived as meaningful picture. In the image, you can see several dots. The left appear to be one part of one grouping while on the right appear to be another part. Because these objects are close to each other. These three rows are very close to each other and these three are close to each other. So we see these as two separate groups. A grouping effect is formed. Because the objects are close to each other, we group them together. Even the things or the shapes are not connected, but they are close to each other. They have a proximity. So we group them together. So that is the law of proximity. Fourth is the principle of similarity. It states that similar things tend to appear grouped together. Grouping can occur in both visual and auditory stimuli. Similar elements tend to be perceived as belonging together. Stimuli that have the same size, same shape, and color tend to be perceived as part of the pattern. In the image, you probably see two separate groupings of colored circles rather than just a collection of dots. You will see a group of red and you will see a group of green. So based on the color or the similarity, we have a tendency to group things. So that is the law of similarity. Similar things tend to appear grouped together. Next is the law of continuity. Anything which extends itself into space in the same shape, size, and color without a break is perceived as a whole. In other words, elements in a line or curve seem more related to one another than those positioned randomly. For example, the whole figure is organized into a continuum, though the dots are unconnected. So the dots are not connected together, but it looks like a continuum. When several dots form a curved line, an individual perceives the figure as a continuous line. So that is the principle or the law of continuity. The elements in a line or curve seem more related to one another and perceive as a continuum. Next is the principle of inclusiveness. This law says that when elements are located in same closed region, we perceive them as belonging to the same group. In the image, the circles are right next to each other. The dot at the end of one circle is actually closer to the dot at the end of the neighboring circle. That is, in these two circles, there is red dot that is far apart, but the dot in one circle is close to the dot in another circle. But despite how close these two dots are, we see the dot inside the circle as belonging together. So that is inclusiveness. When elements are located in the same closed region, we perceive them as belonging to the same group. Now let's have a quick recap on what we have learned. We have learned the law or the principles like the closure, the pregnance, proximity, similarity, continuity, and inclusiveness. These principles explain how perception is often independent of characteristics of the individual stimuli. While discussing the phenomena of sensation, it was mentioned that often our perception bears very little connection to the actual stimulus situation. We now know that this is because of the fact that perception is a complex and active process influenced by many factors other than the characteristics of the stimulus. Hope you like this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you and keep smiling.